Aaron Torres is with us from the Aaron Torres Sports Podcast and Aaron Torres Media. How tall are you, AT, and how tall would you like to be?
Yeah, first of all, it's amazing how even the intro music is more upbeat during a winning streak. But, do I wish I was a little bit taller? Yeah. I'm at the age now where being a baller is not as big of a deal. I think I'm listed at 5'11". I think statistically they say that, like, if you're 6'3" or 6'4" or taller, you're more likely to be a CEO. Now, I enjoy doing what I'm doing, but there are studies that show, like you hit a certain point, and it's like, people just kind of assume you know what you're doing, and that you have your stuff together. So, I wouldn't mind being 6'2", 6'3", but you know what? Listen, I'll say this, and I don't mean to disparage any of the short people out there. I'd love to be 6'2", 6'3", but I also wouldn't love being 5'2", 5'3". So I'll take being somewhere in the middle, and being able to go on all those roller coaster rides and stuff.
Well, Arkansas basketball is winning, and so, yes, we are definitely – we don't play dirges when they lose or anything, but certainly the music is much more upbeat right now. And, hey, without Adu Thiero and without Boogie Flan, there's something about this team, AT, that they just seem to play better when they're down some of their best players. Now, we should also – and Matt's made a point about this, and I think he's right about it. You have to take into context – the team they played against the other day. I don't think Texas is very good, except for Trey Johnson, and I think he's amazing. Sure. That's not a very good team at all.
Well, I don't think they're very good either. But I don't think they're terrible. But I do think the resilience that this team, being Arkansas, constantly shows. I think it's something, and I do think, and I've heard this from Arkansas fans throughout the week, you need a do back for those really big games, really, once you start getting into the SEC tournament. I mean, obviously we kind of know what the Final Four games, kind of what you have to do to just get into the tournament. But I think when you start talking about the top of the SEC, the Alabama, the Auburns, the A&Ms, and then, of course, who you could potentially match up with in the NCAA tournament, you need to do. But I also think it speaks to the resilience of this group. And let's take it a step further. Everybody had an opinion on Coach Cal when they were 0-5 in the SEC. And I think some of it was justified, but I saw some of this after Tuesday night, Wednesday night when they played, and I do agree with it. I think you can argue he's done some of his best coaching in recent memory, galvanizing this group, figuring out who they are, what their strengths and what their weaknesses are, because it would have been easy to fold the tent after Boogie Flan got hurt. And they're playing their best basketball, and they played, again, a phenomenal game with a phenomenal effort against against Texas the other day.
Yeah, I don't know how Texas – that seems to be like a coveted job. I don't understand how Texas isn't any good. Who is Johnson's NBA comp? Is he Steph Curry or more James Harden? Who would you kind of compare him to?
Wow, you're just ready to put him in future MVP category, huh? He's a scorer. I mean, there's no two ways about it. And – it was funny watching the game the other night, Matt, is I'm not an NBA draft expert, but, we all have opinions watching these guys. I think virtually every single guy in the draft, you're kind of projecting who he is and what he could be if things go right. Trey Johnson is who he is. He's a bucket getter. And there are some other guys in this draft that it's like, okay, well, if this hits and this hits and this hits and this hits and this hits, you could have X, Y, Z. And it's like, I already know who that guy is. And so, listen, Cooper Flagg's going to go number one. He should go number one. He's maybe I don't say by far the best player in college basketball, but he's by far the best NBA draft prospect in college basketball. But you get past him, and it's like, well, Ace Bailey's this 6'10" guy that sometimes he's hitting fadeaway threes from 28 feet, and then sometimes he's going 3 for 11 from the field. Dylan Harper's like a pseudo-athletic guard, and so I'm just going through the draft board. I think there's a legitimate argument that Trey Johnson could and maybe should go number 2 overall. I just think with the way he puts the ball in the basket, again, you know who he is. You don't have to project out, well, what about this? No. He'll put the ball in the basket. And I think what's kind of crazy, I'll be quick on this, I know I'm going long. He broke Kevin Durant's freshman scoring record. I mean, that Kevin Durant 37-point performance against Oklahoma State is like an iconic game that still gets referenced. I think it was double, triple overtime, something like that. And so, we're talking about, a performance that we still talk about 15 years later than Kevin Durant. And Trey Johnson was better on whatever it was Wednesday night at Bud Walton Arena. I think it speaks to how good that guy is.
All right. I'll stay with a little college basketball. I was talking earlier with my former coach, Coach Nutt, and we were talking a little bit. This was this morning, and talking about the 4 number 1 overall seeds. And my 4 seeds, AT, are Auburn, Bama, Duke, and Houston. Is that who? Do you have anybody else that would be a number 1 seed right now?
I didn't know Coach Nutt was a bracketologist. I like that. I had no idea.
He's a ball player, man. There was something going on. I don't know. The combine's going on. Something happened. We ended up linking up this morning, and we then it goes into basketball talk,
Of course. No, yeah. So I to me, Matt, those are my 4 right now. Listen, stuff is always subject to change, but when you're talking about these SEC teams at the top, they all play each other, right? I mean, Alabama. How about this for a Final 3 for Alabama? At Tennessee this weekend, Florida in the middle of the week, and then at Auburn next week to close the regular season. I mean, so you do the math. Not everyone can win all these games, and so I know there's been like this pie in the sky. Could the SEC get all 4 number 1 seeds? That's obviously not going to happen. I don't even think you end up with 3, which is not like some insane knock. I just think it's so tough when all these teams are playing each other. Obviously, Tennessee, Florida are in position, but at least one of them, if not 2, are going to take a loss in the SEC tournament. So, I'm not talking about these schools like they're bad, but as far as the number 1 seed picture is concerned, even when they put out that mock bracket a few weeks ago, it had 3 SEC teams. I always felt like Houston was on the outside looking in, and they were going to be on the verge of coming up. And so here we are, and I think those 4 are probably what you'll see come Selection Sunday. I think there's a possibility that depending on how Alabama plays, they could fall to the 2 line, and then maybe you have a team like Florida jump up. But I think the SEC is going to end up with 2 number 1 seeds when it's all said and done. I'm just not totally positive who the second one will be, because I do think Auburn will be one of them.
So Arkansas is in this position where they're one of those teams that you love to talk about going into March as you don't want to play this team in the tournament ball club. That's what they're being talked about right now, and I think that's legitimate. A, do you believe that? B, is there another SEC team that's kind of around the standings with Arkansas that you think could be in that same category?
So first of all, I absolutely agree on Arkansas because, listen, they just create so many. Listen, let me put it this way. Let's just call a spade a spade. If you're within a play or 2 of beating Alabama and winning at Auburn, by definition, that means you can beat anybody. And it'd be one thing if they played Alabama and then they got blown out by Auburn, or they were blown out. They played the 2 of them within a week of each other, and again, a play or 2 away from winning that game. So, yes, I totally agree that they are a team that nobody wants to play. The bottom half of the SEC, I don't know that anybody really stands out. I think Georgia, if they get in, would create some matchup problems. But I think it's more that middle tier. I don't know if Missouri's probably trending toward the 5-6 seed. They play so fast. They're so athletic. They defend so well. That's a team I don't want to play. And then let's just say it, since the 2 programs are, at least for the next few years, tied inevitably together, Kentucky at their best, we've seen them beat Duke, who's going to be a number 1 seed, beat Florida, who's a 1 or 2 seed, and they just really haven't been able to stay healthy since about Christmas time, where it's almost the opposite of Arkansas, where Arkansas in November, December, every game it was a slightly different lineup. I know Arkansas is dealing with some injuries now, but, there was a 7-8 game stretch where you rode with your 8-9 guys. Kentucky, it's like, well, this guy comes back, then this guy goes down. Jackson Robinson came back last week and then immediately got hurt in the first game back. And so that's a team where if they can get their full complement of guys in the next 10 days and really use the SEC tournament, a game or 2 there as a ramp-up period, they've proven they can play with anybody. I just think, we're now talking about tomorrow being March 1st, and I worry, are they going to be able to get all those guys back in time and playing at a good enough level in time for the SEC tournament? NCAA tournament.
Hey, Aaron, I know you're out west, and there's a lot of stuff going on about Matthew Stafford. I don't know if you've heard any or what how connected you are, but you have the combine coming up. I just don't understand why the Rams would trade Stafford. Do you think they should keep him, or do you think he lands somewhere else?
Yeah, it's funny. I'll give you a little preview. I'm actually hosting Fox Sports Radio at 2 Central, noon Pacific today, so a couple hours from now. This is obviously one of our topics, Matt. It's interesting because I think the Rams, that organization, they're kind of in, they've been in 2 Super Bowls. They've won a Super Bowl. So there's not like a lot of internal pressure from the front office to, you got to make moves for the good of next season as opposed to the broader picture of 2020, whatever, the broader picture of the next 5-6 years. And so it's almost like, to me, it feels like if this happens, it's like a Belichick, you move off of a guy a year too early than a year too late. Stafford, I guess I knew this. I think he's like 37 years old. And I think that from their perspective, it's like, we're willing to give you a 2-year deal, a 1-year deal, but we're not doing the 4 years, 40, 50 million guaranteed, which is kind of the going rate of a quarterback right now. And so I don't think that I love it from the Rams perspective, but for Matt Stafford, a guy who kind of got his brains beat in with the Detroit Lions for so many years, I don't understand why he's in such a rush to even consider other options. To me, he's made his money. He won his Super Bowl. I know LA has a lot of negativity around it, but it's not a bad place to live. I mean, it's 75 degrees. I was just taking my dog for a walk before I talked to you guys. So I don't really understand why he would consider things from other perspectives unless it is just get that one last big bag. But it's like, how fun is it going to be getting your brains beat in with the Giants or with the Raiders for a couple extra bucks? But not my life to live. But that, to me, I don't really understand it from the Rams' perspective, but I certainly don't understand it from Matt Stafford being in a rush to leave a really good organization.
Hey, AT, we'll leave it there. Appreciate you coming on. When we talk again, it'll be March. You're a 12-month-a-year guy, but I think March is probably your number one month.
April's become April last year was like, 5-alarm fire every single day. Cal's going there. Mark Pope's going there. This guy's transferring. But it's a fun time of year, man. It's a fun time of year. I can't wait. I know Arkansas is going to be involved in that bracket. And I can't wait to talk to you about it for several more weeks because I think Arkansas, as long as we can get a do-back sometime before the end of the season, I think Arkansas is in position to be in position. So.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from NBA and college basketball to the NHL and UFC, BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every three-pointer to hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here.